signal off, and then when you're done, Evie, you know how to do the stop.
Yeah.
And then I love your outfits, so I told Jane to dress nice, also because you're going to use some of the video footage for your social media.
So you can do that, and then, I don't know.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yes, please go ahead. Thank you, Vivian.
I know, she's great. Okay, so we can start recording. Hi, everyone. I'm so glad that you all back. Hopefully everybody's doing well. I'm really excited today because today's episode, I get to interview one of my close girlfriends who's amazing and fearless. Her name is Jeang Egerton-Idehen. I had to make sure I pronounce her last name right. So before this interview, I just had to double check with her. Anyway, she's an amazing woman. She's also a mother, and she is a high-power woman in the mostly dominating, male-dominating field. And she recently also came out with a book, and it's on Amazon. So you guys all have to check it out. But anyway, I'm going to let her to do the talk because I think it's always better for the writer to talk about why they write this book, where they get the inspiration from, and why they decide to write this book than somebody just giving you my personal opinion of it, even though I know why, because she's just amazing and awesome. Anyway, okay, so Jane, how are you?
I'm fine, Evie. And it's good to see you. With this lockdown, it's always good to see friends.
And everybody, just let you know, we're doing this interview on Zoom because Jane's not here. Jane's actually all the way in South Africa, right?
Yeah, all the way in Africa, actually Nigeria, Lagos, Nigeria. So that's miles and miles away from LA.
So she is amazing, willing to do this interview with us. So all the lady out there, you get to hear this and learn about her book. And hopefully everything she talked about today will give you a little bit, just a little bit of inspiration is always a great thing. Okay, so tell me more about yourself. I know you already, so tell me about you. Tell other women about you, how great you are.
Let me tell all the women about me. So yes, I've been in the tech space for about 2 decades. So I am an engineer. It's always fun. It's always fun to say that. But I'm very, very passionate about women growing their careers. So I do a lot of mentoring, supporting other younger women. I'm married. I have 2 kids, a boy and a girl.
Perfect.
I'm based in Nigeria, but I've traveled loads of countries because of my job. Currently, I run the operations for a satellite communication firm for West Africa. So I head their West African operations. But I'm passionate, I love a challenge. So I love all the sports you can think of. I love to cycle, to swim, I golf, I play tennis. We could go on and on, but that's just a bit about me.
Yeah, she's very fashionable. I know all the girl out there can't see how Jane looked like and what she's wearing. Anyway, don't worry. I took a little peek at the photo, so I would post it on my social media. She's always dressed perfect. I met Jane on a program for women on the board through Yale, and I said right across from her. So every single time when we come to class, I'm always late. I'm barely can get up and just putting the same t-shirt and jeans just because remember I'm coming from West Coast, the 3 hours ahead. But this woman, she's always put together, her accessory just match with her outfit. So beside the fact that she's an engineer, she's a mother, and she also takes care of herself very well. Okay, go on.
Thank you, Evie, and thank you for teaching me how to take the perfect selfie.
Thank you. Okay, so how are you getting into this field? It would be even as of today, I would say the engineering is still mostly dominating men. I understand that I have changed over time, but it's still mostly men, right?
Yes, still mostly men. And actually, it's worse as you climb up the ladder. So we normally say there's a leakage. Research shows about 40% as you go up the management layer, from the mid-management to about the top. You see a 40% drop. But I got into the field. It wasn't really deliberate. It was funny. It's a funny story. I had my mom having a conversation with her friend. And her friend was on and on about her son is studying engineering and it's so difficult. And people are dropping out of class. And this was years ago. I was eavesdropping. And I just told myself, that's what I want to do. it's difficult. I want to do it. So I think in hindsight, I guess I was driven by the challenge. And I think I'm always driven by a challenge. So that's how I just heard about it the first time. I told myself I want to do it. And, I just, along the way, I studied that. So in hindsight, I think I was more interested because it was difficult, because probably I found that people struggled to do it, and that was an attraction.
Mhm. And guess what? You're in it. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what I think that's part of the empowerment, right? To take the challenge instead of saying, wow, that's hard, I don't want to do that. You almost wanted to prove and then
That
to
is
say, I can do it. Yeah.
yeah.
And when did you realize you wanted to be a writer? Because I know you just wrote this book, and what made you decide to do that? And you're so busy, I'm assuming. I mean, I see you, so I know you're busy. I know your schedule, but just what stuff you doing. Yeah.
So just that they can't see they can't see the picture, but behind me you see all the books. So I'm a reader. I love to read. And if you had asked me prior to 2017 if I want to write a book, I'll tell you no, never. I don't think I write. I didn't write. But I had a coach, and my coach was always talking about, you should share some of this experience with younger people. You should write it down. You should, write an article. You should blog. But I'm so busy, like you said, like I'm traveling half the time. My work covers different countries, and I have a team. Then I've got my family and my kids, homework, and house. It's very busy. Like I'm very, very active. The lifestyle. But what happened? I think I had a long break at work. One of those long vacations, and I easily get bored. I think one of these days I was bored, and I'm thinking, what do I do today? I just put up my computer and said, you know what, maybe I should try what the coach said and just write something.
I'm laughing because I know that's how you are. So I can just imagine you're like thinking in your head, I'm like, oh, what am I going to do?
I'm telling you, I was bored that day. I woke up that day, sat down, everybody has gone to school, the kids have gone to school, husband had gone to work, and I'm thinking, how do I spend the time, So I wrote the first article, I published it on LinkedIn, and I got lots of reviews and comments, and people loved it. So I said, okay, I'll write another. And I wrote another and another and another. And before you knew it, everyone was like, make it into a book, make it into a book. And that's how I decided I think sometime late 2018, I decided to put it into a book. And I started putting them all together. And that's how I made the book.
That's amazing. No, that's great. And what was schedule like? I mean, I know the time that you wrote that book, because you had like a little time off from work, like a mini vacation. And since you're so used to being busy all the time, I think you're like, what am I going to do next? And knowing you probably think, what's the next challenge that I can do during that time? But how's your normal schedule like? What's your work schedule, and how because I want to empower other women. And then most of my audience are women like me and you, they're working and then they're mother. I mean, how's your life every single day? How you plan your schedule, and what would be the recommendation you would have for other women like you to balance?
So what I would say is that it was difficult. So I wouldn't try and make it easy. Some days I asked myself, like, why am I doing this? Because we're writing on the plane in the middle of the night. So I had to give up a lot of things to create time, because that's one of the things I first had to do was create time. So I set my alarm clock for 4:30 a.m. I normally wouldn't wake up at 4:30 because I
Wow.
wanted to put in an hour extra. And when I would come back from work, I tried to put an hour extra, but I couldn't do some of the things. For a year, I couldn't golf. I couldn't cycle. I didn't go to the gym for 9 months. I added so much weight.
You look beautiful. So I don't know what you're talking about, but
Yes, but that's the truth, because to create time, something has to give.
right.
And I didn't want to give up the family time. So I had to give up all this personal stuff I was doing, like going to the gym and waking up early, sleeping less hours. But one of the things I also did that really helped was that I got professional help. So my coach introduced me to a writers club, and I think that really helped. So the writers club, you meet every 2 weeks, you write an article, and everybody reads other people's article, you give them feedback, and they also give you constructive feedback. And, that really helped me because it put me on a schedule. So I had to write something every 2 weeks. So that was good. And I also got I got to get an editor right on time. And she guided me because that was also a good professional help. Because initially I also didn't know how to start. I felt a bit overwhelmed. And she told me, you know what, you have to first write a plan. To do a book plan, how many chapters, how many words, what do you want to say in each chapter? Let's write it all down. What's your target audience? What do you want to achieve with the book? What's the style of the book? Do you want to be formal conversation? She helped me put those things together. And I think that helped a lot because once I had the book plan, it was easier to focus chapter by chapter. And of course I had to create the time, so then there was, giving up lots of things to create the time. So I think that was the tough part. Some days I will be in some other country, weird country, and I'm writing, late into the night in a different time zone. And you wake up in the morning and you go for a meeting and you're all confused because you didn't sleep well.
Yeah.
So yes, I think that's one of the tough things for women is that sometimes we are multitasking and we're doing a lot. But what I've learned is that sometimes you have to dare to be bad. So you have to be bad at some things. You can't be good at everything. So some things I had to let go, just decide some things is okay if I don't clean the house well enough. If I don't
that's a good advice. Yeah.
Yeah, because you want to spend time on things that are more important. I enjoyed spending time writing that book, knowing that I was reaching out to younger women. I was sharing ideas and practical tools that would help them in their career. And it's okay if I wasn't as domesticated as I could during that time. It is okay if I added a couple of weight because I couldn't go to the gym as much as I wanted, or I didn't cycle, or I didn't go golfing and hang out with friends. But I knew it was for a period. So sometimes you just have to give up some things to get other things.
And then I like the fact that you point out that, you don't have to be good at everything, right? So it's okay. It's almost a self-acceptance. And then to tell yourself that is you just the perfect the way you are. It doesn't necessarily have to be A on everything. So for a lot of women, hopefully all the women listening to this is self-acceptance. This is one of big thing. And I think we're really hard on ourselves. We're also very hard on other women. So
want to be perfect mothers, perfect career people, perfect friends, perfect sister. You can't be everything.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's okay. And is that the reason why, you were saying you want to get younger women some practical skill, how to deal and how to going through life. Is that what inspired you to write Be Fearless, the book?
So actually what inspired me was my daughter, So if I do say a quick tip was that the name of the book was originally a letter to my daughter. So she was the muse for the book. My daughter, she's currently, she just turned 10. So she was the muse for the book because I so wanted to share a lot of things with her. And I thought, how could I do that? Maybe I should write it down. And that's how, I started writing. It was also a way to talk to my younger self, to younger women, because I also wanted to share all those things I've learned. Like something you just said, that you don't have to be good at everything. You drain yourself, you kill yourself by trying to do that. Why don't you prioritize and choose what you will be good at? And the other things, let them go. You don't have to compare. You can't be somebody else. You have your own path. You have your own purpose in life. Why don't you walk on that path? And that's what's important. That's what's going to give you fulfillment. So she became the muse. So, even when I have the creative block, some of those days you don't know what to write, I would just pretend I go like, if Sarah was there, her name is Sarah, what do you really want to say to her? What are you trying to say to Sarah? And that made me be vulnerable, be transparent, be real. Because, when you want to tell your daughter or your son, when you're sharing something with your kids, you really want to be truthful with them.
Did she read the book yet?
No, she hasn't. But she's read parts of the book. She's not that patient to read the entire book, but she read parts of the book.
She should definitely read the book. I want her to read it and see what she think of it, you know, from her mother. And then sometime, I don't know if daughter's a little different, you know, I get this, like my son doesn't listen, you know, and then once they reach a certain age, I was told that whatever you tell them, they would do the opposite, because I was one of this child. So I'm thinking that, yeah, so I'm thinking maybe, you know, instead of telling her or telling him directly, telling our kids directly, just like, here's a book. And I won't say anything, just read the book, you know?
Exactly. That's a good way. You just give them the book and they'll figure it out. But I think she loves the fact that the book is dedicated to her. So she tells
She do know. You do tell her.
All her girlfriends, oh, my mom wrote a book and it's dedicated to me.
That's cute. And what is your husband thinking about it? Is he supportive of this? And when you told him that, hey, I'm going to work on this book, what was his reaction?
When I first told him, like, book, where are you going to get the time to write the book? But he's been so supportive, because I must say that writing that book, everybody in the house had to chip in. You know, there were days I wasn't available, and it's the fact. I wasn't there as much as I should. And he had to pick up the slack, you know, with the kids, taking them for practice, helping them with their homework, because I was working late and I was waking up early and working throughout the early hours of the morning. So most of the times he had to step in. But one interesting thing is that a chapter in the book was written by my husband.
Oh, really? Don't tell us which chapter so we can read it and try to figure out which one.
I wouldn't say what's in it, but, you know, go get the book and you see what it says.
Yeah, I want to, is that chapter is based on his perspective on the whole thing, or?
It's based on his perspective. So people are always, you know, shocked when I say, like, when I go to all the media houses, like, and they always want to read that chapter. Like, no, we want to read that chapter.
Yeah.
So it was written by him, but I thought that was his own way of chipping in. But I think it gave it balance, because sometimes when you share your perspective, especially from a gender, people think it's a bit, oh, you know, we need a balance. And I thought, you know what, you have to hear from him as well. So we want to reach out to both women and men to say, you know, this will be quite helpful on your journey, especially if you're someone trying to grow a career. This is a good way to look at it.
So what was the best thing about, what would be the takeaway from this book? What would be the best thing that when people read this book, what they can take from that? Like your idea.
So I think one way to describe it is, you know, in New York, I believe that's New York, you know, where you have the stock exchange. There's the statue of the bull. I'm trying to remember the street. There's a statue of the bull, and there's this big bull that was, I think the statue was done like 1985, but a couple of years ago, somebody did the statue of a little girl standing in front of that bull. And you could see the wind blowing into her, but she's standing defiant, with her hands on her waist and staring at that bull charging right into her. So for me, that's what it takes to be fearless, and that's what I want people to take away. So many things we want in life will look very scary, impossible, something we cannot do. I think what it takes is the courage, and courage doesn't mean that there's no fear. And that's what be fearless means. Courage means you're still acting even though you're afraid. So you go for it even though you're confused, you're afraid. Most times when you make that decision to leave that job, to marry that person, to take that new role, to go for that new promotion, you know, to go for this option, sometimes you're scared because the options are not always clear. You're literally scared, but the ability to do it and keep working on it is what will determine the outcome. You know, that's what will determine if you're going to be successful, rather than just don't do anything at all. So for me, that's what I want most people to take on, because for my life journey, that's one of the things that have helped me. And look at what we did at Yale. You know, we all showed up there, paid all that money, go for all that, because we thought we could deliver something to corporations.
Right.
But we didn't have the option. We didn't have the opportunities yet, but we're willing to invest. You know, sometimes you have to do that. You have to take that step. It will never be clear. It will never be perfect. All the options will never be laid out. You have to take the first step. So that's for me is being fearless.
Oh, I love it. I like the way how you explain and define what it means to be fearless. I guess, you're right, because when people think fearless, you just not be afraid. But I like the interpretation and what it really truly means to be fearless. That's very powerful. Thank you, Jake. Well, we're at the last of the podcast, and I would like to close off with the last question, because I know this is mostly for female audience, but just curious, because it was cute that you have your husband one in the chapter to get his perspective. So I think me and you both are on the same page on that. I would say, what do you think if the men reading your book, what would they think about your book? Because I know this is about women empowerment, but if the men decide to get this book, he can argue that, oh, I'm giving it to my girlfriend or my wife, but secretly he probably wanted to read the book anyway. So what do you think the men can learn or take away from your book?
One funny fact is that I've got more men reading the book than women.
Really?
Most of my reviews are for men. I was shocked. So a lady will buy it, and before she gets to read it, the husband reads it first. Like she wakes up in the morning and the husband finished reading it before her.
Oh,
so
wow.
I was impressed. I was like, wow, I wrote it, having that was predominant primary audience being women and maybe men at the secondary audience.
Yeah.
But what I was saying is that what I hoped to achieve with men is to say that, the whole idea of gender equality, female empowerment, gender equity, it's not a war. It's not us against you.
Yeah.
It's not a war of the sexes. It's a collaborative effort. Women cannot get where they want to get to in life without men. We're all in it together because you've got a daughter as well. You've got a sister. You've got female colleagues. You've got a wife. All these women in your life need your support. So it's important you know how to support them on that journey. So if we win, you win. It's like
Exactly.
all together. Like we all have to be on the table, at the table, to make this work. And it goes for lots of things. For women to climb in their career, we need men to sponsor. We need men to show up, rooting for them, mentoring them. So we need the men. And that's what I want them to take away from the book. That is a collaborative effort. It's not a war, one gender against the other.
Great. So lady, listen to that. Buy the book, leave it by the bed. Maybe your husband would be reading it. Surprise you buy it. I learned something from that. Okay, Jane, thank you so much for taking your busy schedule and to talk with us about your book and what's the takeaway, what would be the inspirational thing that you would give all the women out there. And then it's such a great conversation. And then I definitely really like how you define fearless. It really changed my perspective. And, and I also love the fact that, you're including both gender, right? So it's not a war, lady out there. We're not anti-men, and we want to including them. We wanted to see how partnership work, and that's what relationship should be. And I like the fact it's about self-acceptance. You can't be perfect about everything. And again, women, we are so hard on ourselves. So yeah. So thank you. And everybody, hopefully listen to this podcast and love you all. Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much, Evie.
Bye, Jane.
Bye.